In November 1998, a peaceful neighborhood in Jacksonville, Florida, was rocked by one of the most shocking and tragic crimes in recent history. A crime committed by a boy who, by most accounts, seemed normal and well-adjusted, until he did something unimaginable. Josh Phillips, a 14-year-old, was convicted of murdering his 8-year-old neighbor, Madeline Clifton. The story is one of panic, confusion, and fear that ended in a senseless tragedy and a life behind bars for a young boy. This case, which drew national attention, exposed the dark side of juvenile crime and questioned whether justice is truly served when children are held to the same standards as adults. The backdrop of an ordinary boy. Joshua Earl Patrick Phillips was born on March 17, 1984, in Allentown, Pennsylvania. As a young boy, Phillips's life was far from ideal. He grew up in a home ruled by his father, Steve Phillips, an alcoholic and drug addict with a violent streak. Steve Phillips maintained strict control over his son, imposing harsh rules, especially when it came to who Joshua could be around. His father particularly disliked young girls, a sentiment that baffled the rest of the family. The Phillips family eventually relocated to Jacksonville, Florida, in an effort to start fresh, but the tense atmosphere at home continued. Despite the challenges at home, Joshua was described as a quiet and friendly boy by his neighbors. His teachers at school said he was popular, fun, and silly, and he seemed to fit in well with other kids his age. But behind this seemingly normal exterior lay the fear of his father and the pressure to always obey his strict rules. This fear would soon lead to a chain of events that no one could have anticipated. Madeline Clifton. 8-year-old Madeline Clifton was a vibrant and friendly child who lived just across the street from Joshua. She was well-liked in the neighborhood, and her family had no reason to suspect any danger in letting her play with her neighbor. According to her mother, Maddie and Josh had been friends for some time, and she had never felt uneasy about their relationship. On November 3, 1998, Maddie went to Josh's house, just as she had done before, to ask him to play baseball. That day, however, would take a tragic turn, one that would change both families forever. A fatal accident, panic, and a terrible decision. According to Josh Phillips's account of that fateful day, the two kids were playing baseball in the yard when he accidentally hit the ball into Maddie's eye. The ball struck her hard enough to cause bleeding and make her cry in pain. Panic instantly set in for Josh, who knew his father would be home soon. He feared the severe punishment that would follow if his father found out that he had broken the rule of not having friends over while he was home alone. What followed was a rapid spiral of panic, fear, and confusion. Josh's first instinct was to drag Maddie inside the house to quiet her down. As he did so, he claimed her clothes somehow came off. Desperate to stop her crying, Josh hit Maddie with the baseball bat, but her moaning continued. At this point, his father returned home, and Josh interacted with him as if nothing was wrong. Later, when Josh realized that Maddie was still alive and hiding under his bed, he made the fatal decision that would seal both their fates. He grabbed a knife from a multi-tool kit, slit Maddie's throat, and stabbed her in the chest multiple times, ensuring her death. The search for Maddie. Meanwhile, Maddie Clifton was reported missing by her family around 5 p.m. on November 3, 1998. The neighborhood quickly banded together, and a massive search effort was launched. Police, volunteers, and even Josh Phillips himself participated in the search. For 6 long days, the community was gripped by fear and uncertainty as they searched for the missing girl. Her family remained hopeful, unaware that their beloved daughter was already gone. During these agonizing days, Josh Phillips lived in denial. He later described how he coped with the horror of what he'd done by retreating into a fantasy world, pretending that nothing had happened. He continued with his daily routines, even sleeping in his room above Maddie's body, which was hidden under his bed. A mother's discovery. On November 10, 1998, Josh Phillips's mother, Melissa Phillips, made a chilling discovery. As she cleaned her son's room, She noticed a wet spot on the floor. When she investigated further, she found something unimaginable: the body of Maddie Clifton. In shock, Melissa immediately left the house and called the police. Josh Phillips was arrested later that day at school. He confessed to the murder within hours of his arrest, leaving no room for doubt about his involvement. However, his explanation of what happened would soon be called into question by law enforcement. Disputed details and motive. Prosecutors were skeptical of parts of Josh Phillips' story. They questioned whether the incident truly began as an accident. State Attorney Harry Shorstein suggested that the murder may have had a sexual motive. This theory was based on the fact that Josh had previously talked about sexual topics with both Maddie and her older sister. However, the autopsy found no evidence of sexual assault. Furthermore, the absence of blood in the yard or on the baseball bat raised doubts about Josh's claim that he had hit Maddie accidentally with the ball. Although these details were disputed, one fact remained tragically clear: an innocent young girl had been murdered. The trial of Josh Phillips. Josh Phillips was tried as an adult, despite being just 14 years old at the time of the murder. Due to the publicity surrounding the case in Jacksonville, the trial was moved to Polk County. Richard Nichols, Josh's defense lawyer, made a controversial decision. He did not call a single witness to the stand. His strategy was to focus the defense on his closing argument, claiming that Maddie's death was a result of an accident and panic rather than cold-blooded murder. Despite this approach, the trial lasted just 2 days. The jury took little more than 2 hours to find Josh Phillips guilty of first-degree murder. Since he was under 16, Josh was not eligible for the death penalty, but he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The harsh sentence imposed on such a young offender would later be the subject of much debate. Life behind bars and subsequent appeals. In prison, Josh Phillips has taken steps to better himself. He earned his general educational development and took college courses through correspondence. He works as a paralegal, helping other inmates with their appeals, and tutors fellow prisoners. He also participates in religious services, yoga, and plays guitar in a prison band. In 2012, the Supreme Court ruled in Miller v. Alabama that mandatory life sentences for juveniles without the possibility of parole were unconstitutional. This decision paved the way for Josh Phillips to appeal his sentence. In 2017, Phillips was re-sentenced to life in prison, but he became eligible for parole based on demonstrated maturity and rehabilitation. His story is one that continues to haunt those who remember the case, especially the Clifton family. Maddie's mother has expressed her wish that Josh's life sentence be upheld, despite any evidence of rehabilitation. The case of Josh Phillips and Maddie Clifton is one that forces us to confront difficult questions about crime, punishment, and justice. Can a 14-year-old truly be held to the same standard as an adult? Should children be sentenced to life without the possibility of redemption? While the legal system continues to grapple with these questions, the community of Jacksonville will never forget the innocent life that was lost, and the boy whose fear led to a horrific tragedy. If you found this video informative and want to see more content like this, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update.